If you want to attract premium, high-paying clients without devoting years to growing on social media and becoming an influencer, I'm going to give you the exact step-by-step process I used to scale to 350K per year without being famous and without using a single paid ad. These are the exact steps and the exact frameworks over 200 entrepreneurs have used, most notably brands like the Barley Time Chamber, Evan Keen, Liam Howe, Nihab Academy, also two of the biggest global fitness chains in the world, Virgin Active and Planet Fitness. And to make this experience completely frictionless for you, we've included a workbook that corresponds to every single lesson there is. These workbooks are packed with AI prompts, checklists, explanations, everything you need to build your brand. We're literally not holding anything back here. So if you want to get the most out of this course, download those tools now in the description of this video, and you can fill it in as you go through the lesson. Let's dive into lesson 1, uncovering your brand's vision, mission, and values. This is the first step to laying the foundation of all of the work that we'll do in the coming lessons. We'll be catching up on the recording, but what we're going to be going through today is essentially just orienteering, all right? Getting to understand what the program is, what lies ahead, and what essentially it takes to become a brand, and really just get you excited and pumped for the week ahead as well when it comes to the vision, mission, and planning. This first part of the program is my favorite part of the program, all right? It is fun doing creative work. It's fun thinking about your vision. It's fun getting the clarity around what your brand is about. Now, at the same time, I am a serial thinker about things, all right? And we need to make sure that when we think about things, we actually have a plan to take action on them. And that's what we're going to be covering today. And then, giving you the actions that you'll need to take this week, all right? So let's dive right in, my friends. So essentially what we're doing, guys, is BraveBrand is all about, how do we own your story and elevate your influence? And storytelling is this thing that a lot of people talk about online, but they never really get to the crux of what it means and what it means to be a personal brand in today's day and age. And the thing is, right, everyone talks about it, but no one understands that it comes with a lot of imposter syndrome. It comes with a lot of fear, doubt, uncertainty around, is my story good enough to be told? Is it something that people are going to relate to? And that's really what our mission is at BraveBrand, is to break that down for you. And so you can start to leverage your story, your personal brand, and create something that is going to make impact in the world. All right. We've all seen this. If you look at the news, you look at stuff that's going on in the world right now, there's a lot of challenges. All right. There's a lot of fear mongering. There's a lot of chaos. And it requires us to step up, be brave, and get our message out into the world in front of more people so we can start creating the desired impact that we want to see in the world. All right. And it starts with us who are on the front line of coaching, consulting, helping people with health, wealth, relationships. All right. It starts with us. And that's what becoming a brave brand is all about. So in this call, what we're going to be doing is talking about your launch plan. All right. So what is the plan that lies ahead? How are we going to launch your brand? Then we're going to talk about, my journey from fear to bravery. And then we're going to be talking about the emotional journey of greatness, the agreement that you need to come into this with, and then your true north, and actually what the actions are that you're going to be taking this week. All right. So the purpose of BraveBrand is really to give you a launch plan so you can build, launch, and start scaling your personal brand online. All right. We're going to talk about why this is important and why we are going all in on personal branding. But one of the most important aspects of being a brave brand is having great ideas and being brave enough to bring them into reality. Like I said earlier, for the longest time in my life, I was a serial thinker of things. I thought about these grand ideas, but I never actually had the courage to take action on them. And this is what we're going to be covering today. All right. And so launch, our entire framework is based around the process of SOSTAC. Now, this is a marketing and branding principle. This is something that we do with all of our clients when we go into their businesses. It's like, all right, what are we trying to do with your brand? What is the objective? What is the vision? And how are we actually going to work our way through this process and start taking the desired actions that we need to take to actually bring this into the world? All right. So this is what the entire program that you're going to be doing is based around. And this is the principle that you're going to learn, essentially. And so we're going to be starting this week, and next week is like, what is the situation? All right. Where are you currently in your life, in your business? What are the things that you are doing? What are your strengths? What are your opportunities? What are your weaknesses? What are the threats that are facing you? Once we understand that, we're going to start to come up with some objectives. All right. Where do you want to be in the next 90 days, in the next 12 months? What do you want to do from a financial standpoint, from a brand standpoint? What are the goals that we're trying to achieve here? All right. We need to have a very clear target so that you can hit it. If we don't have a target, how are we even going to make moves towards that place? All right. So understanding your situation, where do you want to be and where do you want to go with your brand? And then what is the strategy? How are we going to get there? All right. So how do we craft a unique strategy that is based around your brand, that is custom for you, your personality, the business that you want to create? What is the strategy that we're actually going to be implementing? Okay. Are you going to be building a funnel? Are you going to be creating a certain type of content? How are you going to amplify your message? Now, a lot of people make the mistake and think that, building a brand is all about online and the digital space, but are there any offline opportunities? How can we find clients for you and really make this process seamless and simple? All right. And then once we have the strategy in place, we're going to get into tactics. Now, the battle tactics, this is where stuff starts to get fun. All right. This is how exactly do you get there? This is where you start to place your chess pieces on the board and you start to be like, all right, these are the moves I'm going to be taking. And then we go into actions. All right. So this is exactly what you're going to be doing on a daily basis for the next 12 weeks to the next year. All right. But giving yourself the ability to adapt and to change as you move through it. Now, this is the point where a lot of people start to get things like the fear, the self-doubt, the uncertainty. It starts to happen when the tactics and actions come into play. Because like I said earlier, it's easy to think about where your brand is going. It's easy to create objectives and goals. And for the longest time in my life, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to make $1 million. All right, I want to make $1 million. And year after year tick by, and I wouldn't even come close to making that. All right, because I had no clear strategy. I didn't have the tactics. I didn't have the actions in place on how to do that. All right. And then once we've got those clear and we've mapped that out for you, then we're going to go into controls. And this is how you are doing. This is so, so important in this process. And this is how we're going to basically be able to continuously adapt and evolve this entire process as we move along. All right. So that is the strategic framework that BraveBrand is built around. And the entire workbook that you have access to is literally structured in this way. So you will see the terminology throughout the workbook that you use. And so you all will have got access to the workbook by now. And if you haven't, just make sure you get into it. We run that on Notion. And just a bit of housekeeping is the school platform is where we're going to be hosting and putting these recordings into the different weeks. They'll be released and put up every single week, but the entire workbook has everything you need to basically action this. All right. So a lot of people, well, some people have a tendency to actually just blast through it if they want in their own time, which is absolutely fine. But a lot of people, what we recommend is that you just follow the cadence of the program because we've broken the different weeks down into these different brackets. And so every single week, we will give you a different challenge that you need to complete in order to stay on track with the program. All right. And it is very important that you do stay on track if you can. All right. Some people do drop behind, but it's fine. You have lifetime access to the Notion. But the reason we do it in an 8-week format is so we can actually give you that accountability and we can make sure that you're taking action towards your goals. Because, guys, we're in this to take action. We're not in this for me just to talk at you for 8 weeks. I don't want to just throw you a lot of theory. This has a lot of how-to specific stuff that we actually want you to get done. All right. My biggest outcome, my biggest desire for all of you is that you have successfully launched your Brave brand at the end of this program, and you are iterating and advancing your message beyond that until we basically hit the jackpot. All right. That's what we're setting you up towards. Now, just to give you a quick overview of the different calls. All right. So today is True North. So uncovering your brand's purpose. Next week will be all around target audience. So discovering who you're most powerfully positioned to serve. Call 3 will be all about your revenue roadmap. All right. This is where things start to get exciting and we start to actually put a monetization strategy in place with your brand. Then we're going to look at visual identity. So how is your brand visually represented online? What are your colors? What are your logo? What do you basically look like? And how do we create a professional looking visual identity for your brand? All right. Then we graduate you into content mastery. And that's when we really start to dive into the cool stuff. All right. This is your thought leadership content. Now, how do we position you as a market of one? Now, this is really the antidote to a saturated market. A lot of people talk about saturation, they talk about competition, but we're going to create such an epic thought leadership framework for you that you're going to cut through the bullshit. All right. Then in call 6, we're going to look at your lead engine and the content triad. So what is the content you're creating? What is the strategy behind what you're doing? And how are you building a system that you can actually use to convert your followers into sales? And then we move into implementation. So planning out your Brave brand launch. And then call 8 is all about actioning what we've taught you throughout this program and going out and launching your Brave brand into the world. Now, guys, like I said, it requires commitment, this process. All right. It requires you to action what we're teaching you. Now, like I said, I understand people have, responsibilities and everything like that, but your priority needs to be to make sure you're staying in accordance with the cadence, because if you do, and if you commit, we won't let you fail. All right. That is our promise to you. Now, just a quick one on the team who is going to be running this alongside me, guys. It's a family business, which is epic. And, it's something that Zach and we've been working on this for a long time. And, we got to a stage where Tim was able to come and join us, which is so cool, and Tim has been in the branding industry and the branding space for the last 30 years. So has a huge amount of experience when it comes to launching brands, global brands, Virgin Active, health and fitness businesses around the world. All right. And so the accounts together that we've managed have literally made multi millions, hundreds of millions of pounds and dollars just through the processes and stuff that we're going to be teaching you. It's all based on these solid foundations. And Zach worked in London at a company called Stint, which is one of the fastest growing startups in the world at the moment, completely revolutionizing the hospitality space. All right. So Zach was the sales director of that business. And a lot of his sales systems are what we're going to be teaching you throughout this process. And then myself, I'm actually going to dive a little bit into my story now so you can get a sense for me, if you don't know already. But my background is in storytelling, digital marketing, and actually communicating a brand story with true emotion. All right. So that's my passion. Now, what I would love to do, guys, is I'm just going to give you some context and into, what really was the thought process and what really created Brave Brand. Okay. And this is going to give you hopefully some inspiration as to the journey that you're on and what you can expect to see while you are building your Brave Brand. All right. Now, for me, one of my first jobs, all right, was in the city of London. I was a graphic designer designing websites, and it was a huge corporate. And I really loved it initially because it was just like, wow, South African boy in the big city, like, completely blinded by the lights, and it was awesome. And what I eventually did was, after a few years of doing that and getting sort of sick of it, I was like, you know what? I want to start my own agency. I want to start my own creative agency and start filming for these brands. And I was doing a lot of work, picking up a lot of clients in the fitness space and the restaurant space. And I, quickly moved up to the director of this, doing big advertising campaigns and marketing shows. And I was all behind the logo of Zuzu Creations, which was my agency at the time. And a lot on paper was awesome. I worked with some of the dream brands. I was doing really cool shoots and working with really amazing people in the city of London. And, on paper, everything was cool. All right. It was all good. But reality was, it was burnout city. Like, I was really on the edge of, what I was doing. I was really putting myself into the ground and hustling away. And while on paper, everything was looking cool, behind the scenes, things weren't so great. All right. We were working 12-hour day sets, 12-hour days on set. I was, trading my time for money in the traditional sense. I couldn't actually make money if I wasn't physically there and working my ass off. And so I was actually the visual representation of the Ben Affleck meme. All right. That was basically me in a nutshell. And so I was a creative agency owner, 4 employees, £250,000, strong business brand, and living in London at the time. But internally, I was absolutely cooked. And the common thread here was I had a lot of fear around what I was doing. And so I had the skills to create a YouTube channel. I had the skills to create videos, but I didn't really have the courage to do that. I was like, oh my gosh, watching all of these guys with their personal brands and the content that they're producing, I was like, holy crap, I can do that, but I'm just not doing it because I'm afraid of what people would think about me. But eventually what ended up happening, through all of this stuff, being completely lost, up shit creek without a paddle, as they say, is
eventually we got to the state of bravery, all right, where we're living life on our own terms, living here in Bali, which is great, geographical freedom and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a degree of purposeness now with what I do. All right, there's a degree of fearlessness and actually a feeling that I'm living for something bigger than just myself, which is so, so important. And that is what I want to give you guys throughout this program. All right, so what I want to just show you is how did we get here? And so you can have an understanding of what is potentially coming up for you. All right. So I slowly started to step away from the business brand I was doing. I slowly started to step away from the logo I was hiding behind, and eventually stepped fully into my own personal brand. All right. Where I was putting myself on camera, I was putting myself out there. And in this process, there was so much fear, doubt, uncertainty about what I was doing. I filmed so many videos and deleted them and threw them in the bin because I didn't have the courage to actually step up. But, through lots of toing and froing, eventually I got to a stage where I was like, cool, my personal brand is carrying me enough that I can make this my full-time income, and I can start to move away from London. I can start to move away from the creative agency I was working in. And the real thing that I started to realize was that, my brand wasn't my logo. My brand wasn't my colors, any of that stuff, but my brand was my reputation. And so every single one of you who are doing this program, you already have a brand. Okay. Your brand is your reputation. Your brand is the thing that people say about you when you're not in the room. And so how can we take your brand as it is now, package it up, put it in a bottle, and literally get it out to more people? All right. So how can we do that? How can we tap into that thing that is completely hidden and unknown at this stage? And so what happened was, when I went on this journey, all right, and this is potentially what you guys are going to come up against. In fact, it is what you're going to come up against, because I've seen so many people go through this process now. It always starts like this. All right. It's like, this is the best idea I've ever had. All right. This is going to be so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm loving it, guys. Oh crap. This is harder than I thought. All right. This is going to be a whole lot of work. And then as time moves forward, you start to realize, holy crap, this actually sucks. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. And eventually it gets so challenging and so bad. And the time where you started the new idea, where it was the best idea ever, you find yourself in what we call the swamp of despair. All right. And this is really the point where most people give up. This is the point where most people throw in the towel and, retreat back to the comfort zone. And it really takes a lot of work. And I'm going to tell you exactly how we get out of the swamp of despair. But essentially, once you can make it through, and if you can persist, you start to get to the other side where things start to be like, all right, this still sucks, but I'm still going to do it. All right. And then it gets to a stage where you're like, all right, look, I don't know if this is going to work, but, at least we learned something. And then eventually things start clicking and things start to get interesting. And then you go, holy crap, wow, oh my goodness, this is the best accomplishment I've ever done in my life. All right. And this is what I want you guys to understand. There always comes a point where there is a dip into the swamp of despair. And can you make your way through it? Can you persist and get to the other side so you start to get to the place of where this has actually been, an amazing life-changing opportunity for me? All right. This is genuinely where I was when I was running my agency in London, and I had to find a way to basically push through it. Okay. And the way this graph works is everything under here, this is stuff that people can't see. All right. This over here, this is what people externally see. They only see the good stuff. All right. But we're gonna start to get to know this stuff really well. And we're going to give you the bridge of bravery and belief. And so this program, what you're doing, is going to take you from this point, and we're going to flip and skip the swamp of despair, because you don't have to go there. And I spent like 2 to 3 years in the swamp of despair where I really did not need to. And so what I really want you guys to internalize, and this is the message that has helped me so much, and really the message that BraveBrand is built on, is that the brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. All right. And so when we get to those stages where fear, when the doubts, when all of that stuff starts creeping in, we need to remember that the fear is not ever going to go away, but it is just our ability to be courageous and to move through that fear that really determines whether we're going to build something beautiful and amazing or not. Okay. And the alternative, just so you know, the alternative of not going through this process is staying in your comfort zone, or forever in perpetuity starting this process in a cycle. This is the best idea ever. This is going to be fun. Oh, this is hard. Let me start a new business. Oh, this is the best idea ever. Oh, this is hard. Let me start a new business. All right. And I've done that, guys. I've had maybe 10 iterations of businesses, social media marketing, video producing, editing. I've done all of the things, and I don't regret it, but there were a lot of times it took me a long time before I was able to break through that. All right. And so as we start this program, guys, I just want you to agree to a few things. All right. These are a few things we need from you. All right. It's very important to look after your mental health, all right, throughout this process. And when I say looking after your mental health, I mean looking after things like your sleep, eating well, all right, watching what you're consuming, committing to being someone who is looking after their body and looking after their mind, because at the end of the day, the process of business is relatively simple. We've laid it out for you in a clear way and manner, and all you need to do is execute. And I'm telling you now that the thing that stops most people is what happens up here. And so in order to really make sure you're giving yourself the best chance of success, you have to look after your mental health. All right. And it starts with things like sleep, etc. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. You guys are all in the health and wellness space. I'm not even a fitness coach. I had to learn this the hard way. All right. You can't operate at your best if your mind is not sorted and your health is not looked after. All right. How and why we use ChatGPT. All right. Throughout this process, if you haven't seen already, we use ChatGPT throughout. Okay. Now, we don't rely on ChatGPT. I'm not creating an army of copycat robot brands here. But what we're doing is we're giving you the best chance of success by speeding up your process and getting you into the market as quickly as possible. And ChatGPT is going to be a guide. And we've crafted the prompts specifically to help you just get that clarity and to get that breakthrough so you can start adding on top of what ChatGPT is giving you. All right. And so what I mean by this is every single time ChatGPT gives you an answer, you need to give it what we call the soul check. All right. And the soul check means you read the response ChatGPT is giving you and ask yourself, does this give me goosebumps? All right. And if it gives you goosebumps, if it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, then you know you are onto something powerful. All right. So it's very important that we use ChatGPT to amplify our own message and to amplify our own passion, as opposed to just relying on it. Now, we all know, well, hopefully we all know. If you don't, I'm going to tell you. But AI right now is evolving at a rapid pace. All right. And AI, artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, large language models are going to change the landscape. And a lot of what we're doing right now in the next 5 to 10 years, 10 years is a long time away when it comes to AI. All right. The landscape is changing rapidly. And so the skills that you're going to be learning throughout this process on how to become a brave brand is essentially an investment in your future. Because what I believe is we're moving towards what we call the meaning economy. And that means more people wanting to work with other people, to work with coaches, to have in-person events, to go to special spaces where you are leading those spaces. You are helping people break through on a physical aspect, in a health aspect, in a mind aspect. All right. That is why I'm so passionate about coaches in the health and wellness space. I love what you guys do because it is so important for the world right now. And as AI comes, automations happen, people are going to need your services more than ever. And so if you can learn to adapt and learn to really take on these AI processes and use them to your advantage, you're going to be in a way more powerful position. And that's why we've given you so much AI support as well. But I really want you to feel excited about the opportunity that is coming ahead for you, because there's going to be less automations. Well, there's going to be more automations, but there's going to be more time for people to hire coaches like yourself. All right. It's going to be an essential part of our economy. Now, one thing that BraveBrand is built on, okay, is the law of reciprocity. And this is something, again, I want you to internalize, is when we give, we are like, giving is the same expression as receiving. All right. And so when we give freely, when we give our content freely, when we create amazing free resources, when we give of ourselves and our resources, we need to trust that we will be rewarded in return. All right. And that is really the basis of what we're doing here. We're not gatekeeping content. We're not gatekeeping ideas. We're giving away our best stuff for free, and we're charging for the implementation of it. All right. We're going to dive into that more in a later basis, but I really want you to start to understand this, because me learning the law of reciprocity was one of the biggest keys in building my Brave brand, in building my own personal brand. It's something I trusted in, and it has paid dividends in giving. All right. That was the process. Giving and receiving are different expressions of the same flow of energy in the universe. All right. So just a couple of things, a couple more things before we get into true north and vision planning. All right. These are 3 things I want you to commit to as well, is to cultivate courage. All right. To accept that fear will be part of the journey while moving out of your comfort zone, but promise yourself that fear will not be in the driver's seat making the decisions. All right. You are in the driver's seat. You have the ability to choose courage over fear. All right. I also want you to commit to doing your best. All right. You owe it to yourself and the person you're destined to be to give it your best shot at this. There will be mistakes, setbacks, and more. But if you commit to doing your best, success is only a matter of time. And it's very important to understand that there is no such thing as failure. All right. You will trip up, you will fall, you will make mistakes, there will be setbacks, but you need to understand that is part of the process, and that is just a stepping stone to get to where you really want to be. All right. The next part is to seek knowledge. All right. The best clients we have are the ones who seek answers to their questions and who are curious as to why and how things work. All right. So the program is laid out in such a way that pretty much everything you need is there from the beginning. But if anything comes up, if there are blocks, the best clients we have are the ones who ask questions. And when you ask questions, everyone benefits. All right. So that's why we have those Thursday office hours Q&A sessions. You're welcome to join them. And that's where, the people who are there asking questions on a weekly basis, generally, those are the ones who win. All right. Those are the ones who break through because they're actually taking this seriously. They're seeking out the answers. All right. So now that we've done that, guys, now that we've got the agreement in place, I want to look at your true north. All right. So this is the first exercise of the Brave Brand program. And this is what's going to give you the guiding light in your brand, in your life's purpose. And I'm being serious right now. Like, this is the stuff that, is going to give you fuel when stuff starts to get a little bit hairy. All right. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. The last few weeks have been really tough for me. All right. I've been going through a lot of challenging processes, whether it's me being out of my comfort zone, whether it's me trying new things and failing and having setbacks. And it wasn't actually until a few days ago, in the lead up to this program, I was starting to have a lot of anticipation and this pressure that was building on top of me. And it wasn't until a few days ago, I put this song on it and it reminded me of holy crap, this is my life's vision. This is my life's purpose. This is the mission that I'm on right now. And the moment that happened, the fear and the doubt and the uncertainty I was feeling faded away. And I got up and I did what I needed to do. And I tapped into this powerful source of energy. All right. And this is the process we're going to take you through now, is exactly what we did to get there. And so just to tee this up, all right, the time it takes you to exit the swamp of despair, those moments where you're like, holy crap, how do I break through? And to actually build and launch your Brave brand is directly related to the clarity of your vision, mission, and values. All right. You might have heard about vision planning, mission, values when it comes to businesses. And there's a good reason for that. All right. When it comes to big brands and big businesses, if we are doing a branding job for a client, we will go to a business and we'll say, all right, what is the business's vision? What is the mission? What are the values that this business is representing? And so that's why we have to start here with you and your brand. All right, what is the vision we're building this on? What is the mission that we're taking? And what are the values? Because this is the stuff that's going to drive you through the swamp of despair. This is the stuff that is going to drive you through when you holy crap, I want to quit, guys. I'm not down for this anymore. I'm sick of it. All right, this is what's going to drive you through. And so your ability to be bold and daring in bringing your vision into reality is literally everything. All right, you have to be willing and ready to die for what you believe in. Now, that might sound dramatic. All right. We've got Braveheart here, Mel Gibson, shout out the legend. It might sound dramatic, maybe, but when you consider that every single time a human realizes their life's mission, they are assigned an angel to help them bring that vision into fruition. All right. At the same time, the devil is notified that you have found your calling in life. And then he tries to do everything possible to stop you. And so this causes fear, jealousy, judgment, distraction, and general feelings of inadequacy. All right. So the times where you want to quit, the times when you're afraid of criticism, the times when you feel poverty, when you fear poverty, when you fear risk-taking activities, those are times where, and you can see this as a metaphor if you want, where the devil is saying, hey, like, I'm fighting you right now, brother. All right, I'm gonna take some shots at you and see if you're really serious about this. And so the battle is won through persistence, courage, and bravery, and shifting focus to selflessness. All right. And so whether you believe in angels and demons, black or white, light or dark, God or the universe, it's all the same. The battle commences whether we decide to fight or not. So what I want to look at is, how can we start fighting the good fight? All right. And so it really starts with this. All right. When I started in my journey, my goals were all based around self-centered, selfish goals, right? This was a recipe for fear, doubt, uncertainty, inconsistency, rigidity, imposter syndrome, impoverished feelings. All right. When I just wanted to go out and make a shitload of money, my first objective with my first online course I launched was make $50,000 in the first 90 days, right? That's all I cared about. I didn't give a crap about who I was selling it to. I didn't give a crap about the quality of the product. All I wanted to do was hack and slash my way to the cash as quickly as possible. And so it really was the recipe for this. That's how I felt at that time. And people could feel that too. And so what really happened when things started to get really interesting was when I switched, okay, from self-centered goals to selfless goals. And it was at this point when I realized my vision, I realized my mission, I realized what my values were, that I was able to tap into power, into bravery, into resilience, into abundance, into fearlessness. I was confident, I was consistent, I was compassionate. All right. These were all of those things that I was able to represent in my business. And I was able to start attracting the right type of people into what I was doing. All right. And the example, my biggest inspiration behind this is the South African national rugby team. All right. If any of you know about these guys, right, when they play for their country, they are not playing for themselves. They're not playing for their own pride. They're playing for the nation. All right. They're playing for the unity of South Africa. And if you know a little bit about the backstory, when South Africa was in apartheid, it was the blacks versus the whites. It was a terrible time in South Africa. And when Nelson Mandela got released from Robben Island, he saw the potential of the national rugby team and sport to unite the nation. And so for the first time, a black African put on a South African rugby jersey, which traditionally represented apartheid and separation. And people were like, what the hell? This is crazy. And South Africa actually were hosting the World Cup at that point. And like South Africa were a rubbish rugby team at the time. And it was at that point when Nelson Mandela showed that this is a way that you're fighting for your country. You're not playing for yourself. You're fighting for the literal survival of South Africa. The rugby players tapped into something incredibly powerful. And they went on to win that Rugby World Cup in front of the entire nation. And now the Springboks represent, a complete battle against, the impossible. And so these guys continually play for selfless goals. And what I really want you to internalize is that this is what we need to play for when we're out there in social media, when we're out there building our brand. It has to be based around selflessness. And that is a level of power that will give you such a great competitive advantage that when, South Africa are playing against the UK, for example, who are all ego driven, it's focused on themselves, their own brand image. South Africa crushed them most of the time. And shout out to my English people. I'm sorry. We'll have a chat about it. We'll have a beer about it. But, that really is a great representation of it. Okay. And so what ends up happening is that making sales for me is fun. I light up when I get a chance to tell someone how to buy from me because I know that it is an opportunity for me to change their life too. All right. And it all starts with coming up and identifying what your North Star is. Okay. What are you playing for? What is the motivation? What is the thing that gets you up every day? And so once you find that thing, when the mission is clear, the fear disappears. All right. That's what we're going to be tapping into. And so essentially, a brave brand is all about, putting in the work now and reaping the rewards in the future. And another thing that we say often, and that is going to ground you in a real set of honesty and truth, is that when you focus on the mission, not the commission, all right? We focus on the mission first. The commission comes as a result. It's not the driving force. It's not the thing that we focus on first. We focus on the mission, and the commission comes as a result, all right? And so, once you do that, you'll be on your way to exiting the swamp of despair. Now, guys, this is a picture of me when I first did our vision planning session. It was, how did we come up with the Brave brand? What was the vision for our future? How did we come up with the name of what we were doing? All right. And this is literally the process that I went through when we were doing this on the vision board that you're going to be taking through your Notion workbook. So we've set it up completely. So you go step by step through this. We ask you a few discovery questions about who you are, what you're doing, what you're passionate about. And then we will use ChatGPT to thrust you forward to give you suggestions around what your vision, mission, and values are going to be. All right. So just to give you a little bit of an insight, the vision sets the destination. Where are we going? The mission defines the path. All right. What is the path we're going to take? How are we actually going to get to the vision? And the values establish the ground rules for the journey. All right. So these work in tandem, and they are all as important as each other. Now, this gives you the clarity you need, but also if you're going to work with people, if you're going to hire employees at any point in your business, which hopefully you will, you need to be able to get them pumped on the vision. You need to be able to communicate your mission and your values with them. All right. A big mistake people make is like, oh, I'm just going to hire this person and pay them a lot of money. The chances are that person will stick around for a couple of months, but they will leave if they don't believe in your vision. And so really being a leader, a brave leader in this space, you need to be someone who can set a powerful vision that not only gets you pumped, but it gets everyone you work with pumped, and it gets everyone you talk with on sales calls pumped, because your vision is the thing that is going to attract your tribe to your business. All right. Your vibe attracts your tribe. People all talk about this. And it's the moment that you can start to articulate this effectively is the moment that people are going to start to join you on your mission. All right. And the framework that we use to really identify what this is going to be for you is the Japanese Ikigai process. All right. And so in your workbooks, in the True North lesson, this is broken down into a few specific questions. But what is very important here, guys, is to understand that we need to choose a path in our brave brands that is something that really is something that we're passionate about. All right. And it needs to have the intersection between, something you love, what the world needs, what you can get paid for, and what you are great at. Now, that doesn't mean if you have a hobby of, surfing, for example, all right, that's a hobby of mine, and I'm not great at it straight up, but I love it. All right. I'm not going to choose surfing and go and say like surfing is going to be my thing, because, there's some things in your life that you want to keep your own. There's some things in your life that you want to keep your hobbies, because like with my video production business, I turned something I loved, that the world needed, that I could get paid for, that I was great at. I turned that into my actual job. And guess what happened? Very quickly, I ended up absolutely resenting it. All right. And so what we need to understand is that we need to choose something strategically that we're passionate about, but it doesn't mean taking any one of your hobbies and throwing that in there, because, keep your hobbies, keep some of your things. But we need to find the intersection between something that you're skilled at, what you love, what you're great at, what the world needs, and that's going to be your true north. All right. And so we have a very specific process that you're going to get to the center point at. So in your workbook, what we want you to do is write down what you love doing. All right. What do you love doing? What lights you up? What excites you? What really, fills you up with energy? So at the end of the day, if you're doing something, you don't feel more tired after doing it. Okay. So write that down in as much detail as you can. Then we're going to look at, what are you great at? All right. So what do people come to you and say, holy crap, you're really good and talented at this? All right. Write that down. And again, as much detail as you can. And, fill both of these in. All right. What does the world need? In your mind, write down what the world needs so you can help deliver education, health, nutritional knowledge, relationships. Write down that in detail. And then write down what you can get paid for. All right. So this will be things like coaching, education, mentorship, accountability. What do you think you can do as a coach and a consultant to actually make this happen? All right. What we're going to do then with all of those answers is we're going to pass it through ChatGPT. All right. ChatGPT is going to help you find the intersection between your passion, your mission, your profession, and your vocation. All right. The reason we get ChatGPT to do this is because this can be a process that takes weeks. All right, without it. It takes weeks without it and of thinking. And this is going to get you to a stage where people are going to be like, holy crap, there's a party over there and I want to go to it. All right. That is what personal branding is all about. It's like, there's something happening there. There's something that I can really relate to in terms of my values, my mission, that is really going to start drawing these people towards you. And so, for example, the process we went through with this for BraveBrand is, our vision is to forge a fearless future where individuals and businesses harness the power of confidence to unleash their full potential and to thrive and impact the world positively. Our mission is to ignite individual potential, fostering the creation of authentic, confident, and impactful personal brands. And our values are courage, empathetic insight, playful innovation, integrity, and collaboration. All right. And so what I'm going to share with you now, guys, is just what this looks like from a workbook standpoint. So this is what you all have access to in your Notion. All right. If you don't have access to this yet, please do message us in school. We'll be able to get you access to it. So the beginning portion, this is just an overview of what we've spoken about, so you can get a sense for the process. But we also have a bunch of mobile screens here that you can change. Like, I love to change my mobile background for anytime I'm starting a new project. All right. I want to ensure that I'm giving myself the best chance of, thinking about the right things and setting myself up for success. Now, the true north, this is the lesson that I want you to look at. Okay. So this is the exact guidance that we're going to take you through to get your true north. So you can see here are the questions, and I want you to type everything into these sections over here. The brand identity, this was a bit of a definition around vision, mission, and values. Here are a couple of business examples. And then here is the practical AI supercharging. This is the really exciting part. Okay, so when it comes to the ChatGPT, the way we do it is we break the prompts down into multiple prompts per section. And so when it says prompt 1, we want you to copy this, open ChatGPT. You can use ChatGPT 3.5, which is free if you want to, but we recommend using ChatGPT 4. It is worth the investment. All right, it is worth the investment. Also, just to start actually using these technologies sooner rather than later. All right, so prompt 1, copy and paste this in there. And then I want you to go ahead and change everything that's in green. So here it says what I love, what I'm great at. You're going to go ahead and copy and paste your answers from above. In this section, copy and paste in here. Boom, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. So you're giving it, you're priming ChatGPT with your own personal information. And then what you're going to do as well is take a screenshot of this diagram and attach it to the chat. All right. So attach this diagram to the chat in ChatGPT. And so ChatGPT is going to have all of this information, and it's going to have all of your information. All right. Go ahead and press enter. And then I want you to copy and paste your passion, vocation, profession, and mission over here. Okay. So that's number 1. So number 1 is prompt 1, paste your answer over there. Then you're going to move into prompt 2. So when I have multiple prompts, it means keeping this the same chat. So once it gives you those suggestions, we're going to then flesh out the brand's vision. All right. So it's going to say, can you now help me craft a vision statement based on the information above? This is what I mean when I say vision. So we're engineering the prompt, we're priming ChatGPT to understand what our vision is, what we mean by that. And then it's going to take all of the stuff we said from the Ikigai, and it's going to suggest what your vision is, all right, for your brand based on your own personal information. Then we're going to go into identifying your mission. Then we're going to ask it to suggest some values, but remember to copy and paste your answers into the corresponding box over here. And then the final prompt, all right, this is really exciting. This is bringing it all together. So we're going to say now, using the information above, please distill my vision, mission, and values into a clear, short, and punchy statement. All right, so vision, a world where all life thrives on a healthy planet. So we're giving it an example, and then you're going to have a powerful set of vision, mission, and values that you can start to rock with your Brave brand. Now, remember, guys, the soul check is so important here because we are doing something that genuinely can take a lifetime. All right. People take a lifetime to figure out what their life's vision is. And so what I want you to understand is that this is going to be your vision for the next, let's say 12 months to 2 years to 3 years. Your vision can change. It has the ability to change, of course. My vision changes as I develop as a human being too. But what I want you to do, guys, is to get to a place where you're really excited and happy with what the answer is. And it is something that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. All right. And that is how scientific we are with this process. It needs to excite you and light you up. And once you get to that stage, that's when you know you can move forward to the next next stage of the program. Because the next stage of the program is going to be building the brand around this vision, mission, and values. A lot of people tend to struggle with this initially. A lot of people get the perfect result, but some people go, holy crap, a lot of whoa, imposter syndrome, a little bit of fear comes up. But I want you to know that is a really good sign. It's a really good sign that we're moving in the right direction. All right. So that is our first task for this week. And that is this presentation locked and loaded, guys. I'm really excited to see what you come up with. Remember, in the school, please do ask any questions that you have, pop them in general discussion, answer as we go along. We also have the Thursday Q&A calls if you want to make that. They are not compulsory. I mean, none of it is really, but it's as long as you can make the Tuesday sessions, that's best. But if you want to come in, get extra work with me, ask me specific questions, jump on the Thursday calls and we'll be able to help you through them. All right. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Any questions?
No questions. Just want to say thank you. It was awesome. That was a lot that you went through there in a humongously detailed process that I'm excited to go through. So thanks, Luke.
Epic, brother. Epic. This is a very exciting journey. I'm really, just want to say well done to each of you for actually taking this step. That actually takes a lot of balls. A lot of people kick the can down the road on their visions. They kick the can down the road on actually taking action on this stuff. And I think you guys have taken an awesome first step. All right. So really excited to guide you throughout this. We're going to get into some really exciting things as we move forward. But, let's start this by getting those goosebumps kicked off. All right.
Let's go.
Peace out, guys.